Dr. Guarini, a very common problem in pediatrics, kids get anemic, and a very common cause is called iron deficiency anemia. What is that?
Iron deficiency occurs when the body doesn't have enough iron. Iron is one of the main component of a number of different systems in the body, but the most important is really the ability to carry oxygen in the blood through the hemoglobin. The iron deficiency is something that occurs at different ages and used to be a huge problem a long time ago because food was not supplemented with iron. Nowadays iron is actually very ubiquitous. It's in a lot of places, in a lot of foods. Babies, for instance, get iron from the word go in their formula if they're formula fed, and we also know that the blood that is contained in the breast milk is absorbed extremely well. So iron deficiency is actually a rare problem nowadays in the first year of life, but we often see it now in two ages. One is age 2 or thereabouts, and then the other one is in teenage, in the teenage group area. The 2 years old tend to be, as most human, very lazy, and they like not to work very hard. So they actually drink a lot of milk. And if the parents, as often happens, decide that their kids are the boss, and rather than them being the boss, the kids may actually develop iron deficiency because there is not enough iron in the cow's milk that the kid would eat at that time, or in the juices that often the kid eats, and therefore they develop iron deficiency. The other time when often enough iron deficiency develops is when in teenagers. Teenagers also, as 2 years old, often have their own ideas on how they should eat, and therefore a number of different diet habits, the desire of being very skinny perhaps, the desire of being vegetarian, the desire of being other dietetic habits, without fully understanding how to have a balanced and complete diet, may lead to iron deficiency.
If a child became iron deficient, he was about 15 months old, a doctor takes a history of something very important, is the intake of milk. Why is that?
Again, because the milk, especially cow's milk, and at that point most kids would have been switched from either breastfeeding or cows or formula feeding to cow's milk. Cow's milk is much cheaper, although breast is even cheaper. But at that point, if they take, as often occurs, 6 or 7 bottles of milk per day, that is enough to satisfy their caloric intake, meaning that they don't feel hungry, and therefore they don't take other food like vegetables, meat, even bread, pasta, that contain iron or are fortified with iron.
What's a good rule of how much milk a kid should take?
Well, we generally say that after the age of 15 months to about 2 years, at that point probably 2 of the regular baby bottles.
16 ounces a day would be the good guideline?
Would be about right. And also parents should pay attention to the issue of fruit juices. There is a push on the industry to tell the fruit juices are great, and well, once a day maybe that's true, but to take it 4 or 5 times a day, those also contain a lot of sugar and just about very little of anything else, and therefore the caloric intake is satisfied, but other nutrients are not, and iron deficiency is always a problem in that case.
Dr. Frank Oski, who used to be at Johns Hopkins, did a lot of studies on iron in the first year of life, and said that if you didn't get the iron, there was a chance the kid could become anemic and maybe lose some potential IQ. Is that true?
That is correct. During development, iron is particularly important. The developing brain, which occurs probably at the peak in the first 2 years of life, but may still be relevant later on, is iron in small quantities involved in all kinds of functions that are important for the developing brain. So although the anemia is the big question, the fact that the body may be deficient of iron is actually important, and there are ways to actually measure or have at least a sense of how much iron there is in the body, so that there may be actually iron deficiency without having anemia.
If a child had a form that didn't contain, there are a couple left in the market, that wouldn't be a wise thing to maintain a kid in that, would that?
Correct. The two recommended way of giving milk to the infant is first and foremost breast, for a variety of reasons. And as I said, breast contains not that much iron, but the little iron that is contained is absorbed a lot better than anything, than any other kind of formula, so that even that little amount of iron generally is enough. Now, we have to remember that if the child is exclusively fed with breast after age 6 months, although the absorption is still very good, the amount of iron in that milk is not enough. So that would be one time where supplementation with, for instance, vitamin with iron from the outside would be a reasonable approach. Formula generally has more iron, although it absorbs a little bit less, and that's generally enough throughout the period of time that it's used.
Dr. Guarini, sometimes prematures go home and they're given an additional amount of iron. What is that?
Both the newborn and the premature baby have all their iron stored essentially in the circulating blood, meaning that there is no iron in any of the other organs. The premature infant has a smaller amount of iron in their circulation, and therefore they require more iron supplements during their initial months of life. In addition, if they have had any kind of medical complication, they may actually have lost some iron in the process. A variety of issues in the PQ may lead to that.
Dr. Guarini, adolescents sometimes get anemic, as you alluded to. Obviously, you're concerned if a kid had a lot of nosebleeds and lost blood, or had a GI bleed, maybe some kind of gastrointestinal. But young female who menstruate the first time sometimes get very heavy periods, and that can be a cause.
Yes. I alluded to the fact that teenagers may have diet habits that may be problematic in terms of iron intake, but there's no question that for females, for the young girls who are starting to menstruate, especially those who have, as often occurs, irregular or heavy menstrual periods over a period of months, occasionally even a couple of years, those individuals are at particular risk for iron deficiency.
Is there any danger of giving iron without checking? Is there any risk to it?
Iron is it's a finely regulated substance in our body, because it actually is potentially very toxic in a variety of ways. And so on one end, if you have too little, there are a number of problems, as we already discussed. You can actually poison yourself if you take too much iron, both from the point of view of an acute poisoning, that is a possibility, as well as to some degree chronic poisoning. So that there is a fine balance, yes.
So it's very good if you keep iron in the house to keep it away from young children, because it can be a poison.
Correct. It is one of those, all medicine should be kept away from kids, but iron is particularly possible. Often enough we see kids in the emergency room with acute iron poisoning.
Thank you, Dr.